Let's hope we can find some cheery things in the newspapers today, all being well. My guest reviewer this morning is Mathew Hulbert, the former Lib Dem Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Councillor for Barwell. Good morning to you.
Hi there, Graham. How are you?
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming in and doing this for us today. We'll start off on a political note then, because obviously Jeremy Corbyn is making the headlines in most of the newspapers this morning.
Oh, he's all over the newspapers, whether he wants to be or not. I've got the Daily Mirror here, and they say their main headline, "No sign of peace at Corbyn coronation. Leader faces battle on three fronts." It looks like, unless there's some kind of major political earthquake, that he will win today and he'll be back and he'll have a renewed mandate. But it doesn't look like any of the problems that he's faced will go away. And in some respects, despite the fact that I'm obviously from a different political party, I feel a wee bit sorry for him, because I think actually from the very day that he got elected, there were those with their knives out for him. And although I think he's not helped himself in some of what he's said, or at least some of what those around him have said and done, I think actually he's not really had time to set out his stall. And it seems to me that things aren't going to get any easier for him. I mean, the Times have also got it, and they say Corbyn must give moderates key roles, Labour opponents insist. I mean, the irony about that is that it makes it sound as if he's not been prepared to give moderates key roles. But of course he did, and they all en masse left. I don't think he can be blamed for that. So, but I think it's great for other political parties. I mean, the Lib Dems have won, I think it's now 18 by-elections in recent months, most often beating Labour, taking seats off Labour councillors. So, I mean, people are obviously looking at Labour thinking, gosh, I don't think so, and starting to relook at my party and others and think, well, OK, give them a shot.
Every cloud has a silver lining, but it'll be interesting to see what happens at the party conference. Obviously, it's just starting today, and presumably Jeremy will be the chair, but it could be Owen. Who knows? So we'll wait and see. You're vice chair of the LGBT Centre, and
here in Leicester,
here in Leicester,
absolutely.
and you've got so there's a church story which I think has grabbed your attention.
There is, and I must just point out that I'm not speaking officially on behalf of the centre today, but it just caught my eye, given that I have that role. From the Times today, Anglican hardliners to open their own churches after split over gays is the headline. It says a new network of Anglican churches is to be launched to rival the Church of England as a home for worshippers with conservative views on issues such as homosexuality. This upsets me for a number of reasons. Firstly, because I think in many respects, we've moved on so much, thank goodness, in this country in terms of laws that make those of us who are lesbian, gay, bisexual or transgender, or at least the LGB part of it, the T part of it has much further to go in terms of equality. But we've reached equality now under the law, pretty much. And it's such a shame that, and I say this as someone who is finding my Christian faith returning after a few years of being agnostic, and so to hear that there's likely to be a split in the church over the fact that some people have a problem with who some people love seems to me a great shame, and I just wish that the church could find a way through this. But I guess I also think, being pragmatic, that if a split needs to happen, I guess a split needs to happen. I mean, how can two sides that are so opposed on an issue like that find common ground? I don't know if they can.
What's the paper's view on this then?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's a kind of hard news report, but one of the things it says is the project launched by a group called the Anglican Mission in England aims to plant hundreds of Anglican churches outside the control of the C of E, and has the backing of a group of hardline Anglican bishops from around the world. There's been strong opposition, it says, from evangelical members of the C of E against liberal views towards homosexuality. The House of Bishops is set to discuss the church's stance in November. I mean, it says liberal views, but I'd just say human views. I mean, most people today, again, thank goodness, and due to the hard work of places and people such as the LGBT Centre in Leicester, think, well, actually, it's none of my business. Law-abiding people who they loving who they choose to love is none of our business. And I must admit, I think it's probably why some church pews in some churches are very empty on Sunday mornings. Because, and I say this as someone who's making my way back to a Christian faith, but why would you go to somewhere where you're not necessarily accepted or wanted? You wouldn't, would you?
There we go. So we'll have to see what happens there. And the Leicester Mercury found sort of league tables for our local universities in the local press.
Indeed. So the Mercury today, universities learn fate in latest league table. It says a league table of UK universities shows Loughborough heading towards the top 10, but De Montfort University falling a wee bit, 14 places to 67th. It says the Times and Sunday Times Good University Guide 2017, published yesterday, showed Loughborough University up from 13th last year to 11th, also named Sports University of the Year. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone how fantastic they are with their facilities there. The University of Leicester was ranked 25th, up from 28th last year, but still below the 20th from 2 years ago. In the table of 128 higher education institutions. And De Montfort University dropped a wee bit from 53rd to 67th. But I must admit, after this morning, I'm off to what's still the wonderful De Montfort University for their welcome day with the LGBT Centre to talk to some of their new students that are having their first few weeks there. So
we'll be able to see you in person a little bit later on.
Yes,
Mathew Hulbert busy reviewing the papers for us this morning, and we'll look at some of the lighter stories from the press in just a couple of minutes after this from Adele. A mellow little tune to get you into the day nice and gently. Saturday breakfast with Graham Wright on BBC Radio Leicester. That is Adele, of course. Carl Cooper coming away at 9, sitting in for Monica Winfield this morning. Mathew Hulbert is here, the former Lib Dem Hinckley and Bosworth councillor for Barwell, reviewing the papers for us this morning. A couple of lighter things I think you found for us, including a row about toffee.
Indeed, who'd have thought it, a row about toffee. From the Mirror today, crunch time for toffee. Oh, very good headline. Quality Street Chew dumped for new honeycomb sweet. So it says a sweet included in Quality Street tins for almost 80 years has been axed. The Toffee Deluxe was put into the selection boxes a few years after they first went on sale in 1936, but the chewy treat in its orange wrapper, we all know it so well, has been ditched in favour of the new honeycomb crunch because customers complained of too many toffees in the tub.
Wow. Now,
Too many toffees.
Why can't they just add another variety? Why do they have to take one out, I ask myself?
It's the modern, I tell you, first world problems, you know, it's so, and as you can tell, Graham, and I can say this because it's radio, as you can tell from my svelte physique, I never go in for chocolates like this. No,
but it's amazing what people get upset about, isn't it, with all that's going on in the world?
I know. Toffee.
There we are.
I say keep them both in.
Absolutely. There we are. Let's keep everybody happy. Now then, another big fallout that there's been recently is of course, the Bake Off, which has gone to Channel 4 from the BBC, and people leaving left, right and centre. It's continuing to rumble on in the papers this morning, I think.
Oh, it never ends, this. It's almost as big as the whole Corbyn story, this Bake-Off gate, as I call it. In The Sun, showstopper, very good, ballsy Cherish may replace Mary. Now, I wonder if you've heard of this lady. I don't think I have, but it says Channel 4 chiefs are lining up strict pastry champ Cherish Finden to replace Mary Berry on Bake Off. Cherish, a judge on Creme de la Creme, the spin-off show for professionals, is known around the globe for her show-stopping creations, and her blunt put-downs are in stark contrast to Mary's positive criticism. The only difficulty with that, I think, Graham, is that you'd have two people who are supposed to be the harsh judges. You'd have Paul Hollywood's and this Cherish. And I don't think you need someone nice, don't you? Who's going to be nice?
Because Paul Hollywood is staying on. Obviously, Mel and Sue have gone.
Yeah.
The series is still on the BBC at the moment. We don't quite know what's going to happen with that one and how that's going to all end up. But yeah, the paper's obviously still very, very keen on reporting the very latest developments on that. And just finally for today, the next big thing in television.
Well, would you believe it? Yes, BBC One Kenobi, says the Sun. B plans hologram telly just like Star Wars. So it says the BBC is testing a holographic TV to create images like those used by Princess Leia in the first Star Wars. Experts have designed a lo-fi and low-cost machine which gives the effect of floating objects. So a new way of watching TV, a bit like the cinema, I presume. I don't think they've yet worked out how to do it for radio, Graham, so I think you're
we'll be safe for the time being. Hey, Mathew Hulbert, it's lovely to talk to you this morning. Thanks for coming in and being our guest paper reviewer this Saturday morning.